right. Now you've demolished the prospects of our two leading tycoons. Perhaps you have some ideas about our other candidates.
You can rule out all those 5 MPs tipped by the pundits this morning.
Mrs. Lovell, MP?
Bunty's a pusher. She has talent, she's tough. She has one drawback.
Go on.
She's a woman.
Well, I hardly think that needs stating, considering her statistics.
Which she plays on. Can you imagine the tizzy she'd cause if she gave Sir Jayston Fowler the come on?
Our Deputy Under-Secretary wouldn't know the difference between a woman and a bound copy of Hansard. No. I want Mrs. Lovell as our next minister.
Oh, no.
What the hell do you mean by that?
Well, John, I know she's a sex pot, probably the hottest politician since Eva Perron. It's not like you to let a woman come between you and your work.
She's the only one of those that I can control.
Don't forget you're in the race yourself. Oh, very shrewd. You push Mrs. Lovell so that Prescott, our temporary minister, doesn't become permanent. Then, after a decent interval, you leave Mrs. Lovell in the ditch.
Oh, sounds like quite a damp romp.
Decent intervals are for civil servants like you, Lincoln. No. I want the job filled permanently by Mrs. Lovell.
And make you second favourite, Wilder.
Second?
Second.
Let's get this straight. I never join any political party. Certainly not for however brief and dazzling power in government. I have to remain independent.
Back to industry one day.
One day.
The big neutral. The untainted political virgin.
Lincoln, I do know a good analyst.
What do you mean, Lincoln? Are you thinking of joining me out there in the wilderness one day? If you do, consult me first. Out there, they spill real blood, not red ink.
Doesn't it bother you that whoever gets the job might get you out and appoint a new ambassador?
Prescott.
Oh, Prescott's got his own department, and that's given him an ulcer. He's only a tick-over appointment.
Which leaves us with my Mrs. Lovell.
No, someone quite else. Someone pacing himself from the rear like a quality miler.
Go on, Lincoln. Who is this Olympian?
Garfield Kane, MP.
Who?
Garfield Kane, Mr. Instant Success himself. From deprived child to industrial consultant and member of Parliament in a few giant strides. A francophile, a socialite, and a bit of a lad with the women.
Yes, well, let's see what Who's Who has to say about him, shall we?
Very little, so far. He's at this moment at Le Gourmet Français. Best French chef in London, of course. Lunching. With your wife.
Prescott's quite definitely not our man, Lincoln.
Dried up before his time.
I'm glad you agree. It's so rarely these days you do. Still, I can see what he's up to. He would amalgamate his own department with ours and import his own hierarchy.
Which would be goodbye to you.
And you, for all your urge to try new pastures, might find yourself menially tied to the old. Running errands would be quite a come down from riding around all the afternoon in Wilder's roles.
I'm running nobody's errands, either now or in the future.
So when do you leave us for the big grab outside?
Well, not before everyone's snatched all the plums here.
Still, I should deliberate with care, Lincoln, before you step into the undergrowth.
You make business sound like some primitive corner of the Mato Grosso.
Well, isn't it? I'm not lucky enough to have a son. But I'd never let my nephews entertain business as a career.
Did your nephews wear pinstripe nappies?
That'll do, darling.
Yes, Sir Jayston.
And while you remain here, you do well to help us make sure that our temporary minister Prescott presently departs.
I didn't know you were a John Wilder man.
He's the last person I'd want at that desk.
Don't tell me you're carrying on with Mrs. Bunty Lovell, MP.
Lincoln?
Lincoln Darling, my private secretary. One of the Foreign Office high flyers.
Oh, I thought so. Yes, he's certainly been flying high amongst my friends, not to mention my enemies. Question here, an inquisitive phone call there. For you.
I know all I need to know about you. If Darling has been doing any digging, you can be sure the shovel belongs to the permanent civil service here, who believe they have a right to influence the appointment of a new minister in their own interests.
I know somebody who also believes in this right, in his interests. He's been doing more lobbying in the right places than anyone.
So I think I know who you're talking about.
The professional orphan.
Garfield Kane.
Frank, if Wilder jumps the queue of loyal backbenchers, if he's made Minister of State just for signing a party card, the explosion will make student riots look like Parents' Day at Eton.
Now, don't tell me how to do my job.
I've been a member of this party as long as you have, Frank. As chief whip, you're custodian of its interests in this house. You know quite well what a menace Wilder is to backbench MPs who are quite reasonably looking for promotion.
Like you?
I've worked for it.
If I'm warned just once more to be on my guard against Garfield Kane, I'll know you've all turned a shade of jealous green. You're not jealous? Oh, no, Lincoln.
I've no right to be, have I?
No, you haven't.
It's nothing to do with rights, actually. Only chromosomes.
Lincoln.
All I said was he's a crafty politician who believes in using people.
Well, John uses me, I use him. You and Don incessantly use me to influence John. Garfield was doing no more than that. Anyway, Don at least isn't crafty, he's sweet.
You left me out of that last bit.
You, Lincoln, are not nice to know. I do sometimes find you fascinating and complicated and interesting and sometimes attractive.
I'm flattered. He's going about it the wrong way, you know, if he wants to be minister.
Why on earth does nobody believe him when he says he doesn't?
Because he's been lobbying the Foreign Secretary and trying to cultivate Downing Street.
Well, who on earth else should he lobby, Mrs. Bunty Lovell? Lobbying Mrs. Bunty Lovell.
Wilder's been wasting his time. He should be cultivating the puppet master, the man who pulls all the strings as far as jobs are concerned. The government chief whip.
Have you told him?
Oh, he stopped listening to me.
So you want me to tell John? Now who's using who, Lincoln?
If Garfield Kane gets the job, I'll clear out within 24 hours. My resignation will be in before he even steps foot in the place.
But you don't even know him.
I know enough.
Lincoln, I'd no idea you were sitting waiting out there in the Rolls yesterday.
And if you had?
Well, I'd have introduced you to Garfield.
It wasn't Kane I wanted to talk to.
Now you're just being silly. Anyway, by all accounts, you kept the Rolls all afternoon. Who did you pick up in it?
Well, if you must know, I got Goodall to keep going round and round the High Park Circle.
Whatever for?
I needed to think.
Nobody else in the back seat?
Not even a dolly bird.
Lincoln, darling, you are jealous.
I'm flattered you should come here, Sir John. I understand it's more usual for you to be called on.
I'd go anywhere, Kane. To the least significant of people. If I wanted something badly enough.
And what you want now is the Minister of State job.
What gave you that idea?
Oh, come, Wilder. I know I'm just a humble backbench MP who even has to share an office. But I know you've been lobbying like mad.
Not for me. For you. I couldn't work as ambassador under a minister whose only concern was the building of futile empires.
You mean our stopgap, Prescott?
Who, if he gets the job, intends to display his talents as a globe-trotting trade genius. I don't think he could sell jelly babies.
What about our other candidate? Westminster's answer to Bridget Barder.
Yes, Mrs. Lovell is very attractive.
As a candidate?
As a woman. Now, can you see me working under a woman?
You could work on one. I don't see why you support me, or say you do.
Because you're so ambitious. You'd be so busy with your politics, you'd leave me to get on with my own job.
Still don't believe you, you know.
Ah, it's up to you.
But if you mean what you say, there's a way you could help. One of our aircraft firms, of which you were once managing director, has on its drawing boards an executive jet. Now, if we could get a co-production deal with the French, with whom I might say, in all modesty, I have substantial influence.
Somebody's been talking.
Oh, I know it's all hush-hush.
I must remain so.
All the same, if I knew more about the aircraft and its possibilities, I might well hasten a deal with France.
Where they don't eat frogs' legs with chopsticks.
Your wife? You're a lucky man, Wilder. And, by the way, it wasn't from her that I heard about the aircraft deal.
Oh, she knows nothing about it. And in future, if you want to talk to me, you needn't have to do it through her.
She's doing a great deal of work for my orphanage.
Well, if you think you can pull the French in, discreetly.
I'm sure I can.
Well, I'll see what I can do. But first, you must see the plans and specifications. I'll see they're sent over to you.
Well, thank you. Sir John?
Tyler, too. He's thrashing around, ready to take the bait. All you have to do, Don, this afternoon is dangle it to him.
I'm not with you, John.
The aircraft plans. Oh, Jayston, do you want Prescott slung or not?
Not the verb I'd have chosen.
To hell with the semantics, yes or no?
I should prefer someone other, in the interest of the country and the office.
Not to mention your interests. Oh, we're on the same side, Jayston.
This isn't April the 1st, Wilder.
You want Kane in?
I understood you'd prefer a woman.
Infinitely. In the right place.
Mrs. Lovell, MP.
Could you assume that my interest in Mrs. Lovell was not political, but purely immoral? If you want to give Kane a leg up in this department, there is a way open to both of us, which is, to say in the least, ironic.
Oh?
Prescott, in his naivety, trusts you. As temporary head of this department, he could push an Anglo-French co-production deal on a jet aircraft, the credit for which, in the end, would go to Kane.
Will you brief me in this deal? Or will Dowling?
Dowling? No, get hold of Henderson.
Yes, Sir John?
Jill, will you come in for a moment? So it's up to you, Jayston. If you want to help Kane, with your usual discretion, of course.
Right.
I'm not happy about your inviting all these tycoons. I mean, it's pretty obvious all you're doing is trying to squeeze cash out of them for your pet orphanage.
Blackmail isn't always black, Lincoln.
This is a pretty murky off-white.
Doesn't it warm you? Doesn't it excite you a little? The prospect of prizing open those tight, podgy fists. I can't bear men with podgy fingers. Lincoln, you haven't. Let me see. Come on, Lincoln.
That's them. It happened when I was 9. My mother used to send me to the butcher's for chops. He was a bad-tempered butcher with a red face, and I used to give him a bit of lip.
Did they prosecute him for child cruelty?
No, but the head butcher axed him.
Come on, Lincoln. Open up those podgy fists. Lincoln, you're not safe to be with.
You keep saying that, and you keep seeing me. And I haven't podgy fingers.
Well, they're hardly long and elegant, are they?
Misspent youth. Too much time on the guitar.
The guitar wasn't invented when you were young. Oh, damn, and we've got so much work to do. It's Garfield, darling.
Well, I suggest that you agree, whatever you have to agree with my wife about this charity thing, then take your leave, Kane.
I'm very grateful for all you're doing, Pamela, but that isn't why I'm here, though I had to imply on the phone for security reasons that it was. Well, it might not be out of place to offer me a drink, Sir John. After all, I did come here. As your new minister, I could have well sent for you.
You? After that French fiasco?
Mere ripple on the surface of deep political water, John.
Political mud.
Well, for heaven's sake, let's toast something, even if it's only Lincoln's charity list.
Well, that isn't quite the most important thing that's happened today, but I'll drink to that, if you will.